Does America just feel different to you now? Like, at some point, the rules changed and nobody told us because the math really isn't adding up for a lot of people right now. And I don't just mean people who are struggling. Even when I was making six figures at my last corporate job, something still felt off. But this video isn't about doom and gloom. It's about being real, about what actually changed, why adulthood in America feels so much harder than it used to, and what's still worth holding on to. So let's get into it. Let's start with the most obvious one, which is housing. I remember when you could find a decent one-bedroom apartment in America for around 800 bucks a month. I'm not talking like in the middle of nowhere either. It was something livable with a decent and safe neighborhood. I feel like that world is gone now. Right now, the average rent in the United States for one bedroom is about 1,500 a month nationally. And in cities like LA, New York, or Miami, I mean, you're looking at roughly 2,500 to 3,500 for a basic one bedroom. And don't even get me started on buying. The median home price in America is hovering around $420,000 as of January 2026. I mean, this is from Redfin. Meanwhile, mortgage rates stay painfully high even after the Fed has been cutting interest rates. Last I checked, it's still around 6% for a 30-year fixed loan. So first-time buyers got absolutely crushed. It got so bad that I actually started seeing news stories of like friends and families who decided to go in together on a house just to be able to afford it. I'm not talking roommates, I'm talking like co-buying to achieve home ownership because that was the only way in. And then there's that quote that went viral a few years back from the World Economic Forum: "You will own nothing and be happy." A lot of people laughed it off as a conspiracy theory, but this doesn't look far away from reality standing here in 2026. Here's one slightly hopeful thing though, and I want to be careful not to oversell this. I believe we're near or at the peak of the real estate market. I'm basing this off of the 18-year real estate cycle. The theory says real estate moves in roughly 18-year boom and bust patterns. And by some accounts, we could be approaching the top of this cycle. I say that because if you subtract 18 from this year, 2026, that gives you 2008, which just happens to be the last bust or the housing crisis. That doesn't mean prices are going to crash tomorrow or the next month or two, but it means the people locked out of the market today might get a window eventually. And I say that because real estate moves much slower when compared to like the stock market, let alone crypto. But the question is, can you survive until then? Okay, so if you can't afford rent for the place you want on your salary, the obvious question is hustle more, right? That's what America tells you. Work two jobs, start a side hustle, download Uber or DoorDash, grind, rinse and repeat. But here's my problem with that. I actually tried it. Years ago, back when rideshare felt new and exciting, I actually drove for Uber and Lyft. I thought, this is great. You get flexible hours. I get to make my own schedule and earn extra money on the side. Within the first couple months, I started doing the actual math, and the math was brutal. The extra gas costs, extra oil changes, tires wearing down much faster. I felt the value of my car just bleeding out every mile. And after all that, what Uber and Lyft were actually paying me per hour, I barely broke even. Some weeks I think I was technically losing money when you factor in the wear and tear. So I stopped pretty quickly after that. And here's the thing many people don't like to talk about. Gig companies like Uber and Lyft classify their drivers as independent contractors on purpose. That means no benefits, no job security, and no protections. And they can change the payout structure anytime they want. And they have multiple times. You're essentially running a business with all the risk, but with none of the control. There's nothing wrong with working hard, but working hard on the wrong thing in an unsustainable way while someone else controls the rules, that's not hustle, that's just a trap. If you're going to grind, make sure you actually own something in the process. Now, let me also take you back to a time before social media. I had real friendships. I went outside more. I didn't think about what other people were doing or saying every 20 minutes. My self worth wasn't constantly being benchmarked against the real. Then social media happened. And I'm not here saying it's all bad, but I want to be honest about what it actually does to your brain. Because there have been studies that have shown heavy social media use is directly linked to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and what researchers call social comparison, basically measuring your life against other people's. And the algorithm is designed to keep you there. It's not meant to be neutral. It feeds you content that triggers the strongest emotional reaction, which more often than not is either outrage or something envy based. Even in Europe and Asia, I see everyone just staring at the same glowing rectangle that they have in their hands. Little kids, teenagers, adults, all staring at their phones, doom scrolling. It crosses every border. And I still do it from time to time, and it can be really tough sometimes just to look away. But I've also noticed something. In a lot of Asian countries, there's still a stronger sense of community, like people checking in on each other, neighbors who know neighbors, family ties that actually hold. I feel like the collective mentality versus America's hyper individualism affects mental health in ways we don't talk about enough. And when I travel to Europe, on the other hand, to me, it felt a little bit somewhere in the middle, like between Asia's collectivism and America's individualism. But social media can work for you in a good way, like if you're building or marketing something. So it's really a double edged sword. Another thing that feels off when compared to the 90s that's changed is friendships are quietly dying. This one is a little personal because I've experienced this. As people get older, many friendships just fade. And I think most people know this to some degree, but nobody really talks about it. Maybe it's just me, but as you get older, when you or your friends get new jobs or move away, those connections just start to fade. You either maintain it or lose it. And if you want to go out and make new friends in your 30s and beyond, it's just not that easy anymore. It takes time and energy that most people simply don't have left after working 50 hours a week. I had a really good friend that I met back in college, and for the sake of example, let's just name him Joe. Joe and I became really good friends over cars. I mean, that was our thing. We talked about cars, we went to meets together, and even raced in some track events and autocrosses. But over the years, something shifted. Every conversation started to become about him, like his car, his new modifications, what I thought about his stuff. It became very one-sided and draining. Eventually, I just quietly stepped back. That's just what happens when relationships stop being mutual. And when he got married and had kids, it was pretty much game over. I mean, kind of sad, really. But I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people are still in denial about, and that's AI. AI isn't a future problem, it's a right now problem. I remember the exact moment ChatGPT launched. I was still working at my corporate job, and within days, executives sent out a company-wide memo saying to not use it, and especially don't upload company information into it. I mean, they treated it like a security threat, which I can understand from their view. But fast forward, not even like 2 years, you have all these corporations now asking employees to use AI to do their jobs faster and more efficiently. The narrative just completely flipped. And now you see these mass layoffs just left and right. I mean, take Block, for example, the payments company owned by Jack Dorsey. They recently announced plans to cut nearly half of its workforce, specifically citing AI as a reason that they need fewer human employees. That's not a small startup. That's a publicly traded tech company eliminating people at scale because AI can now do what they were paid to do. So those white collar jobs, the ones everyone said were safe, are now on the chopping block. From marketing, accounting, legal research, customer service, coding, data analysis. I mean, these were supposed to be the quote unquote smart jobs, the ones AI couldn't replace. And what's worse is recent college graduates are struggling more than ever now to even land an entry-level job. Even those with advanced degrees like computer engineering are struggling. Some economists are comparing the job market right now to like the post-2008 recession. Except this time, it might not bounce back the same way because 2008 was a financial crisis. This is like a structural shift in what work even looks like. In my honest take, I really think blue collar trades are about to have a serious moment. I'm talking like a plumber, electrician, HVAC technician. Those you can't really offshore. You can't automate it with a chatbot. And right now, I believe there's a massive shortage of skilled tradespeople in this country. I'm not saying everyone needs to drop everything and become an electrician, but I am saying the path that was supposed to be safe, the degree, the corporate ladder, white collar office, is way less safe than anyone wants to admit. If many people are struggling to get jobs, how do you expect them to start a family or just have a more general positive outlook on the future? And look, I am married now, and one day I would like kids and a house and just a little bit more stability. These used to be the default, the assumed path. You grew up, you got the job, you built the life. Now I just feel like these are luxury goods. The average cost of a wedding in the US is now $34,000, which is practically like a new car. In order to save money, I didn't even have a wedding. My wife and I went to the household registration office in Taiwan and got married there. And the average cost of raising a child from birth to 18 is like over 300K now. So it's no surprise that birth rates in America have dropped to historic lows. Young people aren't rejecting these things because they don't want them. I feel like a lot of them want them deeply. They just can't figure out how to afford them. And I'll be honest, I worked at corporate for years. During that time, I made some decent money, got good benefits, and yet I still didn't feel quite stable. There was always this underlying anxiety, like what if there's a layoff, or the company decides to restructure, or we go into another recession. Luckily, as I've explained in one of my previous videos, I did make some investments that paid off really well, but that was a bet after I did many research and I just timed it right and I knew what I was looking at. What I eventually realized is that my financial peace of mind had a lot to do with where I was living. The cost structure of the United States, when you factor in things like the rent, healthcare, taxes, just the general cost of living, made stability for me at least feel almost impossible, even when by most metrics, a lot of people were saying I was doing okay. That's part of why my wife and I made the decision to move to Taiwan. And I want to be clear, this isn't me telling you that you need to move abroad. That's definitely not for everyone, but it made sense for us at that stage of our lives. So where does that leave us? Because I don't want to end this on a wall of problems without saying something real about what actually helps. First, I would stop measuring your life against what you see on social media. What you're seeing is the highlight reel. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's best moments. And that comparison will eat you alive if you let it. Second, I would protect your energy. I know that sounds kind of soft, but I believe that helps tremendously. I have family members I no longer speak to just because of how toxic and negative they are. That's not something I say lightly, but some people will just drain you no matter what. And the kindest thing that you can do for yourself is create distance. Third, I would keep learning. Just learn slowly, consistently, just at your own pace. I mean, you don't have to become an overnight expert in AI or crypto or real estate. Just stay curious by reading, watching, listening, because all of that compounds over time in ways you can't fully see them until years later. The people who are going to be okay through what's coming are the ones who kept adapting. Even with this channel, I try to provide value from all the things that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made, but I'm still learning new things even from making these videos. Fourth, take care of your body. Eat well, move around, get good sleep. It's unsexy advice, but your physical health is also the foundation for pretty much everything else. Your energy, your mood, your ability to think clearly and handle stress. And finally, I would say find your people who actually show up and genuinely care about you. People who don't keep score and aren't so superficial. Those relationships are rare and worth keeping and maintaining. Anyways, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching. Share this with someone if you think it'll help, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.